Schenectady City Council Committee meeting for Monday, August 5th, 2024. The first committee is Public Safety.
I'd like to call public safety to order. We have one item on the agenda tonight, that is to standardize the specifications for PPE or turnout gear. Chief, no?
Good evening, everyone. Okay, so here this evening, Sam, I just sent you the specs. Did you get them?
I did. I forwarded it on.
Very good. So the request this evening is that we are asking that our turnout gear, that's the protective gear we wear, pants and jacket, be standardized. Our specs to be the gear that we buy. We currently purchase them from Globe. It's been the last 20 to 30 years that we've purchased this gear. And over that time, we've made adjustments depending on where we are in our fire department. Our pockets are designed a certain way for tools, for communications, and it becomes very important that everybody has that same gear. Everybody has the same layer of protection. And we've had very good dealings with Globe. The issue has come up when Globe has removed themselves from the state contract list. They no longer participate in state contracts. And that's their decision. There wasn't anything that they did and they were removed. So we've been discussing it with purchasing, and purchasing suggested that the best route that we could go is to standardize the gear, and when you put it out to bid, chances are there may be certain things that only Globe does, and that would kind of preclude them into fulfilling. We're more concerned with maintaining the specs. It doesn't have to be from Globe, it can be from whoever, but we don't want the specs to be deviated. So I've submitted the specs to 22 pages. For you to review. And as an aside, Globe is always very competitive, most times being the cheapest bid, or the lowest bid, I should say.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Ms. Worship?
At this point in time, we haven't, you sent that, the 22 pages to back recently this afternoon.
Yes.
So the council doesn't have had an opportunity to look at that yet.
Right.
So your request of us is to review that and then make a decision?
Sure.
All right. So they're not on the state list. Are they the only ones that provide what you're looking for?
Well, some of the things they do are proprietary. Mm-hmm. So they're the only ones to provide those aspects.
Okay.
Be it a technique, be it a certain material. There's not a lot of that, but there are some of that sprinkled within the specs.
Any other questions or comments? Ms. Patrick or Mr. Mayor?
Defer to the member of the council.
So just to clarify further, so if we agree to these being the specs, which I would support, obviously taking your recommendation, so if Globe changes what they want to do, in other words, it's not that we're agreeing to Globe for the future, we're agreeing to these specifications.
To these specs, yes.
Okay.
Not asking for them to be a sole source. If
Gotcha.
that's the way that I'm being advised by council, then I'm good with that. My end goal is that these turnouts be the ones that we've been purchasing.
Gotcha. Thank you. Just wanted to clarify.
Mr. Mayor?
The thing is, we can't go out for specs that are solely written around one vendor. You can't put out criteria for a Chevy engine and you need something that's in a certain horsepower range. Ford may have it, somebody else may have it. And so that as long as anything is, you're saying some of this is proprietary, but there has to be an ability for other vendors to bid on this, absent going out for a sole source, where they have some unique product or feature that makes them stand out and be more advantageous for what we want.
I understand that. Our dealings, maybe not so much with turnouts, when we talk about bigger items like apparatus, and those specs are, multiple pages, if not hundreds. And so a lot of times, or sometimes it's been our experience, someone would bid it saying, oh yeah, we'll follow those specs, and then when they start building it, they don't, and they can't, and then we end up with a product that we're not really going to be pleased with. So that's why we're asking that these specs be accepted. And I understand your point, Mr. Mayor, about proprietary items.
Mr. President?
So if I'm understanding correctly, the request is based on, obviously, your experience and that of firefighters, that we want to have a certain standard of suit. We're not talking about necessarily a particular vendor, but this particular vendor has been able to meet the needs historically. So what we're saying now is that we're going to standardize this, give other vendors an opportunity to meet the standard, but really the standard of the suit is what we're talking about, and it's necessary, for the things that we won't even consider what you guys understand about being out in the field, right?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, definitely would support that.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Woodbury?
Chief, is these spec coming directly from your department, within your department?
Say it again, I'm sorry.
The specification, is it coming directly from your department?
It's what we've developed over the years,
Over the years.
working with Globe, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Porterfield?
So Globe helped develop the specs?
We've been working with them over the last 20, 30 years. So for me, this is all about safety.
Of course.
We're in environments that are not attainable, correct? You're in environments that can be 600 degrees on the floor, and I'm not being dramatic. They'd be 1,500 degrees at ceiling level. There's no room for, I don't want someone to come in and go, oh yeah, we follow that, and that's proprietary, but our thing's just as good, and then we find out maybe it's not just as good. It's safety for me, and you guys know me well enough, it is number one priority. It's just, that's my number one goal, is get everybody home just the way they came, no different. And I'm a strong believer that these turnout gear that we have is what works for us, and I want to maintain that. And it goes to, we have our radios in this pocket, and we have our descending devices in this pocket, and insert tubes in this pocket. And you say, well, is that really a big deal? Maybe the manufacturer says, can't do it here for whatever reason, and some of the reasons are, like, really? Okay, no, we can't, that's fine. But now if you have a firefighter down, and I know that my descending device is in my right pocket and my pants, and his is on the other side, that could cause some issues, cause some uncertainty, delay the operations of getting the person out. Does that happen all the time? It doesn't, but we have to plan for it.
What other departments do they serve,
I can't give you a list. I can't do it right now, but there are other municipalities throughout the country that do this. And this was working with finance. They said that's the best way for you to go, being that Globe's no longer on state contract.
Mr. Woodbury?
Chief, did you budget for this on the capital?
Sorry?
These turnout gears, did you budget?
It's on our regular budget. It's
Regular
not capital.
budget,
It's not
not
capital. So sorry.
You had apparatus, I think, under capital.
For
this.
coming up this year?
Yes.
This year we have monitors, EKG monitors,
Okay.
and CPR devices that we put on there.
Thank you.
We'll come back to talk to you about that, I'm sure.
Mr. Mayor?
No, I wanted,
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, Mayor, does that address your concern? His explanation of who provided the specs?
What are you asking of the council tonight?
To adopt our specs as they are now, to make that as the standard for our turnout gear. So when we put it out to bid, these are the specs that have to be met.
My assumption would be we would just put that out to bid with those specs. Then it comes back to the council for approval of the award of the bid, because it's no longer on state contract.
My concern, right, and we could have further discussion, obviously. My concern is, right now, we're paying approximately $4,000 for a set. And someone comes in $3,500. And as we look at that, we're going, no, you're missing a couple of things. That's going to be when I,
We just put the specs out in the bid going out. It doesn't really go to the council before it goes out to bid.
Right.
okay.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, Mr. Mayor, you're saying we don't need to adopt a policy as long as you bid with those
The
specifications?
council wants to say these are the specs, but it's, we're going to go down a path and we're doing stuff for
Every department.
Other departments.
two steps as opposed to, if it's on state contract, we just pick the vendor out, can award the contract. This private department to put the specs together, go out to bid, and then it comes back to the council for approval when they award the bid. And it has to be within budget and has to meet those terms and conditions.
Yeah, if I'm interpreting it right, then you proceed with the specifications as you identified within your department, so it kind of absolves us of having to wait on that anyway.
So what happens if someone comes in with a lower bid, and then council says, why are you purchasing these? Why aren't you purchasing the lower bid one?
Well, the council can do that. They can ask the questions when it comes back, but if it doesn't meet the specs, it's not going to go to the council for approval.
Okay?
Mr. Carter?
I just want to say, regardless of how this, we move forward, I just want to say that I think I speak for other members of council, I'll certainly speak for myself in saying that, we trust your judgment and understand why, there are very different calculations that have to be made to do something like this. And to your point, that scenario might not happen all the time, but if it does happen one time, it can cost somebody's life. So I'm going to definitely defer to you and your expertise when it comes to that. So you just have my full support in putting the specs out the way that you see fit.
Mr. Mayor, you feel that maybe it's not a need to adopt it as a standard, and we could have the same outcome?
By awarding the bid, the council will be adopting those standards.
Okay.
Once they go out to bid.
And so, I understand your concerns, but however, if you put the specs out and someone doesn't meet the specs, even if they're a lower bid, but they haven't met all the specifications, it would not move forward to us anyway. They would have to meet all of the specifications, not just because they came in a lower bid.
That'd be my hope. I've seen it differently on at least one other occasion on an apparatus. And that's a far bigger discussion.
So something came back to us, and it came to us to take a look at, even though it didn't meet the specifications, is what you're saying?
I don't know if it was this us or another us.
Whatever else it was at the time. Yeah.
Hope it
Yes. Yes, that did occur.
The apparatus is an entirely different ballgame. We're spending $500,000, $750,000, over $1 million. And there is advantages in terms of standardizing the apparatus. Go back to say, we'd like everything to be a Chevy. Chevy doesn't make a lot of fire trucks. You get somebody who comes in with a bid and says that they've got pumping capacity, the aerial capacity, horsepower, whatever we're looking for, but they're $250,000 less than what the mayor and the chief has recommended. The council might approach it differently and go from American LaFrance to Rosenbauer, another vendor, which then creates some issues with training and equipment. The chief's talking about you want the standardization where it just allows operational efficiency in the field.
We've been on our mission to have as many things standard in the fire service as possible. It's taken us probably 10, maybe 15 years to standardize our apparatus. So you can go to engine 1, you can go to engine 4. I can send any firefighter to either one of those, blindfold them, tell them to give me the whatever, and they can go to that area and get me whatever, because they're standard. That is extremely important. And so it's the same philosophy with the gear. Now, if we can accomplish that with just having put it out to bid and not accept anything that doesn't meet exactly, even though it's lower, I'm good with that. So if you choose not to standardize it, knowing that that's going to be our goal, I'm good. Either way.
Currently, it is the firefighters are using global manufacturing.
Yeah.
Are they tailored individual to the firefighter, or are they come in various sizes?
Say again, I'm sorry.
Like, are they measured by, like the firefighters measured and given these?
Yeah, everybody's fitted.
So, okay.
So it's very specific.
Can it be used by someone else, or that's their suit?
No, it's a safety
Always
issue.
assigned to do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
has a
it's
name
assigned
on
to
it.
the firefighter, yeah, as their name on
If
it.
they leave, what happens with that?
They turn it back in,
Back in?
and then we'll use it for training new people, so they're not, on the front line, but they go to the academy and they beat it up. They're crawling and they're climbing and they're falling and they're doing all that stuff, but they're not subjected to that thermal issue.
Are there, what come with those, guarantees that you have with global manufacturing, so you would want to maintain a relationship if a suit is found defective or there's an issue with it, that you would go back to them, where if you have another vendor that may be problematic?
Well, I wouldn't think that'd be problematic. If there was an issue, I would think a reputable manufacturer is going to stand up for that. But our relationship with Globe has been long-standing. We have a very good relationship, and I think that plays into the price we get, too.
But I think what the mayor's saying is correct, is that if you have the specifications, you want this and this only, not anything different than that, then putting it out to bid and only accepting those bids that really give those specifications. As long as we're not gearing those specifications only to one company, and we're gearing the specifications to the needs of the fire department.
Correct. So again, we're following the suggestion from finance.
Mr. Farley?
I just want to reiterate, this is not a decision that we would be making, or I think we should be making without you. So I just want to I will definitely, want to make sure that, you'll be reassured that any decision that we make would be obviously
I appreciate
with your input. That you want to be
Not to throw anybody under the bus, but finance is here. If they have anything to add. Right, somebody. Is there anything that I don't want to step out of procedures?
Would you like to come forward and explain?
Did I explain it properly?
They're a little nervous. My name's Sarah, I'm the purchasing supervisor. And in every bid, you have to have an equivalency clause. It has to be there, it's mandatory. So if another company puts in a bid and they say, hey, it's a great product, but it's not Globe, which they've been accustomed to and they've experienced with for years and years. But then another company comes in and says, it's great, it's wonderful, and it's $5,000 cheaper. It's not gonna work because we can't be that detailed in our specifications. You have to have that equivalency clause in there.
It's okay. Yeah.
So in order when you have that clause, you have to be able to accept other bids. And you can't just put those specific specifications. You can't exclude people if they meet the specifications at a lower cost. It's just the law. So that's why you bring it to council, you have them standardize it. We still put it out to bid, but now the vendors that you choose from, they have to be able to offer what you're requesting. Because we brought it to council, and council approved it, and it was resolved, and that's what we decided that was best for the fire department.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying that the fire department having standardized these specifications isn't sufficient enough, we have to validate it at the council level?
Correct.
Okay. So I'd say with hearing that new piece of information, thank you, you did an excellent job.
You just saved the day.
So he-
That's what I said, right?
Okay.
I think that puts a new perspective on everything that we've just heard. So with that, it sounds like we have to pass this.
So I'm willing to move that,
And I'll-
that we adopt the specification as outlined by Chief.
All right, thank you. Second?
A second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Are there any other?
Chief Marino.
We did like a $14 million budget a lot easier than that. No, not really.
There are no other items that come before public safety. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.
I would like to call the Finance Committee to order, and the first item is Intergovernmental Cooperation Agreement, GIF, Lieutenant.
My experience, last couple of years anyways, we've been awarded the GIB grant, which is the gun involved violation of elimination grant, and that comes to the DCJS. What we're asking for today is to accept the probation department, at least partial of their funding, to pay for or help reimburse an employee there, which is an anti-violence coordinator. And ultimately, what we are asking for is the probation department of the county of Schenectady to transfer $40,000 of their GIV grant funds to the city to offset the payroll cost for an employee, the anti-violence coordinator. This agreement requires no further funds and will be used to pay a portion of the salary of our existing anti-violence coordinator.
Question on this item. Go ahead,
So the
please.
anti-violence coordinator works for the police department or the probation department?
Well, that's a great question. I just want to pay her $40,000. To be honest, it's more of a cooperation.
Than the city payroll.
City payroll. Sounds like a great collaboration.
Thanks,
though. I think it's good to have that collaboration.
That's right, exactly. And that she's been very helpful to understand, and so.
Thanks, Lieutenant.
Any other question? Seeing none, we have a motion to move this item forward. Second, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. The next item is the Schenectady Police Department City Towing Service. Lieutenant Mawiki.
Yes, thank you. So the city of Schenectady advertised proposals from interested parties in the capacity to tow motor vehicles of varying sizes and in all weather conditions. Tow rates as set by current resolutions and ordinances. Ultimately, the recommendation is for the city council to authorize the mayor or his designee to enter in a contract with AC Towing and Recovery, LLC, and H&K Towing, Inc. To provide towing services to the city of Schenectady for a 3-year term. Awarded contracts can be amended to reflect any changes in the toll rates.
Open for questions on this item? Just one, go ahead, please.
All right. So we have the RFP in front of us.
Yes.
So I did have a question about something within the RFP. It says, I saw it here somewhere. I highlighted it. Okay, all right. So under Section 8, submission requirements, items number 3, 4, and 10 refer to the fact that any towing of city-owned vehicles, they will not, whoever bids on this will not be reimbursed for that. So I wasn't clear on how that calculation came about and what the impact has on any businesses that actually do that.
Sean, I want to bank on somebody. I mean, I could speak sort of anecdotally, but
If we, in the history, Lieutenant.
yeah, so the way it's been, I do have an intimate understanding of the contract, less so the request for proposal, but We've been operating under a contract for the last 3 or 4 years, and we've been operating off of that contract. Now, granted, it's been expired, or I should say we've been out of contract for probably the last 2 or maybe 3 years. As it stands now, depending, I'm sorry, are you speaking strictly of city vehicles?
I'm speaking strictly of that city vehicle, not other vehicles, obviously, they just charge for that. But it says here that if they tow a city-owned vehicle, then they cannot ask the city for reimbursement
that's
for their work.
Correct.
So that's my question, because
That's just part of the agreement that we've been operating under for at least since 2018. I suspect probably much earlier than that as well.
well, my concern with that is that these are basically small businesses, and I'm not sure, I mean, I guess I need to know the rationale behind that, because, and me looking at this, it seems like then this is basically cutting into their profit, and is there some way that they're being compensated on some other level through this?
Well, I suspect, again, this is my own suspicion, is that we tow a fair amount of vehicles in the city. So if you are one of 2 vendors really in the city, you're probably going to get some revenue generated that way, probably much more so than if you hadn't been our contractor. So I think that's maybe just a small, I don't want to say price to pay, but it works in the city's favor to do that. Now, I don't know how many times a year that happens, but again, we're talking essentially police cars and small vehicles under 10,000 pounds.
Go ahead, please.
But it sounds like that was just part of the negotiating of this contract, that they, it sounds like the bidder wanted to get the contract, so they, it's just something that they agreed to,
I see it in the RFP, that means
That's
that
right.
we asked for that. That's what we had before.
But, but somebody would have the choice, a bidder would have the choice of.
So I hear what President Brookfield is saying. So because if I am a small business, and obviously this contract is going to be important to me in order to operate my business, then I might go and, enter in. But I think that, for your point, if I'm an owner and I got to send somebody out, and I still have to pay that, but there's still costs associated with that. So as I'm kind of putting that together in my head, I'm just thinking like, okay, what does that look like? Is that a cost of doing business with the city? Is that how that's considered, like a cost of doing business with the city, is that you have to tow city vehicles for free? Because I don't want to.
Historically, whoever's had this contract has towed city vehicles at no charge, and we hope that is a very infrequent scenario, but it does happen where a police car will break down, or a vehicle's in an accident and has to be towed.
Lieutenant, did any of the bidders made reference to this item or made objection to it?
No, not for anything under 10,000 pounds. Again, they've been operating this way since at least 2018. So really it's been kind of a standard procedure at this point.
Go ahead, please.
I'd say in wanting to be responsive to the comments around the table, is it easily quantifiable just how many times we've used this, similar to the mayor's point? Like if it's something that has been rarely enforced, I think it's kind of a new point, but if it's something that's been trending upwards, I think it is important for us to be considered for small businesses.
Again, I can speak sort of anecdotally. I as sort of technology gets better and you hope they break down less and drive you safer. So if there is a trend, I suspect we would be on a lower trend, though I couldn't say that right here and now. Just going off of what I'm thinking, 1 to a month.
I'm just keeping in mind the current resolutions regarding tow is that the contractor may charge a rate up to $160 with an additional $35 fee paid to the city of Schenectady. So they can charge up to $160 $160 per current resolution on this, for this type of operation. So that's on a private tow. If we've asked them to tow, it's up to $160. So, without getting into the minds of those who put in proposals, they're looking, that's something they keep in mind. They say, okay, right, how many tows does the city have versus how many tows does the city order to have on other types of vehicles? So that's just, go ahead.
I'd like to speak from experience. My previous role was in the traffic division. We had a long-standing relationship with the two tow companies that were entering or would like to enter an agreement with. That's never been brought up as a source of contention, but I would say that if we were to potentially lower those standards, we would attract other bidders that may not be as qualified, and maybe this would open up perhaps a whole can of worms. I can say with certainty now that the two bidders that we have are excellent agencies. They're responsive. They come essentially in all weather. I would hate to compromise anything that we have with those two. And that's just from my own experience.
So if one of the potential contractors, because I know, so we've been dealing with the same contractors for a number of years.
Yes.
So if one of the potential contractors, or both of them said, hey, I feel like for whatever reason, maybe because it's starting to eat more and more into their bottom line, to say when this RFP comes out, came out, says, this has become a hardship for me. How is that handled? Would that be handled?
I would have to defer to Sean. I think, would that be a contractual change, or would that be a change in the RFP?
It's not really.
Hey, Sean, so the question was, if down the road or even now when the contractor was uncomfortable with towing a city vehicle for free, how could they change that down the road? Is that separate from the RFP? Would that be more contractual?
If the council, we can do it here tonight, just to help move things along, is then accept the two recommended proposals, and the RFP does allow us into contract negotiations with those two. So if there are those issues, then we can come back with a final contract draft for your review. If we can just move forward, then we can have discussions with the two selected vendors and then have further discussions, because the RFP already allows for that, and maybe that's the best way to go.
So the RFP go out as is,
Right.
and then when it comes down...
No, the RFP...
I'm sorry, Mr. Blueberry.
Go ahead, please.
So you're saying let us go into contract based on this RFP?
The RFP, they've already submitted their proposals
Right.
based on this RFP.
Okay.
The RFP allows us to get into contract with any respondents whose qualifications conforms with and meets the specs by the city, which we've put before you.
Okay.
So we can accept those respondents, and then we can enter into contract negotiations if the city council so wishes, pursuant to the terms of the RFP. That's how so we can just move it forward and then have the contract follow behind, and then you review the proposed contract.
So with that said, then the recommendation to the council here, then we need to change it to enter into a contract.
Negotiations.
Contract negotiation. Go ahead, please.
But the contract negotiations are with the mayor. If the council doesn't
But you can,
negotiate
I mean, if there's any concerns you wish to incorporate into the negotiations, we can do that right here and now, and then obviously the mayor will be authorized to sign the contract at a later date if you so wish to take a look at what the terms and conditions are. But I just move the process. Okay, we've selected these two. Let's have contract negotiations, and it says when it's in the best interest of the city to do so, we can have negotiations with the respondents and move from there.
With that said, should we have a draft? I mean, a draft of a contract to look over?
We can do that. We can do that as we
Just
go
if there's
forward.
no draft, and we did receive this evening, but that was more of a sample.
Yep, okay.
So we kind of like, if we can have a draft of both
Right.
of the two companies,
We'll just have
It's the same?
We'll have a sample, just framework draft.
a draft.
Just a sample.
I think that would be the best way forward, to have a draft and let us review it. and kind of move forward based on what is in that draft.
But in the short term, a resolution just accepting these two as the qualifications and then authorizing at a later, negotiations to go forward. Is that agreeable? In other words, we're just saying, yes, they've met the requirements, and we're going to have further discussions with them.
Yes, please.
Yes, I mean, we've already received these bids. These companies, out of their own choice, are bidding based on this RFP. So again, I mean, it is sort of a free market in the United States definition. And they have determined that this is okay with them, these companies. And we are, in the best interest of the city, needing to move forward. So I maybe next year or next time we have to do this, we look at it again, but we can't control, the companies could have decided not to put in bids if they didn't like the terms of this RFP, right?
And again, I think we're just asking that we move forward. The RFP's out, so there's still contracts. We can modify
have further
it.
discussions. And then all we're asking is to go forward.
I understand.
I'll move it to go forward.
Have we done this in the past where we adopted RFP, or we just go straight into the contract, and the contract before the council review the contract, make amendments if there's any, and then move forward, authorize
Yeah,
any?
but we're just moving this forward because there's two vendors proposal this way. We can have those discussions this way. And you've also indicated some concerns. And they may have some concerns.
So I think we should just go right into the draft and have the draft and then move forward. I mean, why this and then the draft, the contract after the fact?
I'm just suggesting that we could do it in 2 weeks, but I'm saying this way, these are the two we've selected. And if there's a contract, meeting in the minds in 2 weeks, we'll have the draft contract for you all to review and then do a final resolution. But at least this way we can move it forward. These are the vendors that we're going to be.
Because that's what the resolution is for the mayor to enter into a contract.
But I think the chairman wishes to.
No, but I think we're authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract.
Correct.
We don't know what the contract is.
So we can send you the draft.
So that's what I'm asking, if we can have the draft, review the draft and move forward. We don't even need to adopt this. We go straight into the contract and move forward with the recommendation from the police department and purchasing. They are recommending that we select AC Towing and H&K. We just need the draft contract and move forward.
And that, what Mr. Newberry suggesting.
So you want to do that Monday night? I mean, we can provide you before.
Yeah, we
before
can.
that.
I'm willing to meet.
Okay, we can do that too.
Before Monday?
See what we can do.
I think that's the way forward. I can't recall that we did this on the council here.
Okay.
That we move something separate from a contract or RFP, then contract. Let's stick to what we've been doing. Contract before the council, we review, make amendments if there's any, move forward. So can we get that draft, the two draft?
We'll just have a sample contract and send it out to the con.
What do you mean sample?
In other words, the framework of the con, not with the names in it yet, because this will just, if they're this way, it's open for you to add any terms and conditions that you so wish.
No, we've selected two companies to move forward with.
But what I'm saying is that if there's any terms and conditions you want to add, you can. Oh, but you want the names.
Yeah, we're moving forward with two companies, so everything should be added there. And if we, as a council, have changes, we'll send back those changes.
Okay.
And if there's no changes, then we'll adopt it. Go ahead, please.
The only thing that I would ask is, because my concern was about whether this cost is impacting the small businesses. So is there a way that we can get the information that is it impacting them somehow? In terms of us, what the cost is to the businesses to be doing that work without being compensated?
Yeah, we can certainly run a report, and we can call and we can analyze how many times they tow our vehicles. Sure, we can do that.
All right.
I would do that.
That would be my only yes.
Finance Committee, are we good with that? So we're gonna have to recess and meet Finance Committee Monday
Or you could just move forward and just...
with authorizing the mayor to...
And then just forward with the resolution, send the contract, and if it's not to your liking, just pull the item from the agenda, and then I'll come back if necessary. That's all.
Yeah, I would rather see us, let's recess, so Monday evening, 5, we could, that's
Whether you
right.
want to do the rest of the items first?
No, well, I'm just saying that at the end we'll recess, if you're okay with that, we can discuss it at the end, at 5:30, Monday. Are you good with that?
Yes, I'm good.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
You will hear from us. The next item is the YWCA ARPA Critical Repair Contract Amendment.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor. It's hot in here.
It's very hot in here. We have to turn off the air conditioning so people can be heard.
I know,
I'm
I
sorry.
understand.
All right.
Today, we have the Department of Development and Planning received a request from our subrecipient of YWCA in regards to ARPA funding. They are looking to modify the budget from the allocation they received for critical repairs. Today, we have the CEO, Kim, here to answer any questions in regards to those changes. I did submit the letter to the council for review. So Kim is here with her team, Kayla, and the...
Thank you. Thank you, Alexandria. Hi, everybody. Good to see you all again, once again. This is Kyla. She is our grant coordinator, writer extraordinaire. I'm Kim. I'm the CEO at the YW. We'll take very few minutes of your time, and Kyla's going to start. Are you good? Here we go.
Hi, everyone. So back in fall of 2021, we received the ARPA grant from the city for critical capital needs at our main site at 44 Washington Avenue. This grant was for $364,449, of which we have spent $6,300 so far, with $358,149 remaining. We are requesting a budget modification because our priorities as an agency have shifted since 2021 to the larger need for affordable housing in Schenectady County. Our original grant, the budget covered replacing the windows at 44 Washington Avenue, rebuilding the front steps, fixing the drainage pits, and getting a new water main.
So, as Kyla said, our biggest priority is our Harbor House project. Just so you know, we've been working on that project since 2017. The project took on a new scope. For those of you who have been here that long with us, we had it in 3 phases, one being the building, the new building being created behind us, and then our current building built in 1929 being renovated, and now we've added an additional 3rd phase, which is moving our early learning center, which is not part of this request. And so with those 2 things happening and now finally coming to fruition in spring of 2025, all of the dollars, close to $47 million already, we are hoping to go under construction, let's say March. So what we would like to use these dollars for is to support that Harbor House project. And so Kyla's going to go on to the next section in normal sense.
So the budget modification, we are hoping to spend $98,000 of the full budget on the water main replacement. This is part of the project that's already underway. We're in the final steps of finalizing the contractor selection. We request that the remaining $266,449 go toward the Harbor House project. Funds would go toward the early stages of construction. All funds would still be for hard construction costs and critical capital repairs. Everything would stay within the city of Schenectady at the same site at 44 Washington Avenue. This will allow for flexibility in the early stages, the site prep, etc. of the project, for which funds are most needed, most dire, and we, without a doubt, are confident that we will expend all ARPA funds by the June 30th, 2026 deadline.
So, to round it all up, sorry.
Go on ahead.
Oh, sorry, trying to give space. We are using the funds as we requested them initially in 2021. We were awarded them at the end of 2021, and now we're almost 4 years from that. So as you can see, the project has taken some different iterations, but we are ready, but we needed to have a little bit more flexibility. So that's really what we're coming to the council for, is a little additional flexibility in regards to spending the dollars on areas in the building. Most of them the same areas, windows, front steps, well, the front steps are done, but the drainage pits, the water main, just to make sure that we're not overstepping the use of the ARPA funds, and that's really why we're here tonight. So thank you for your time. Does anyone have questions?
How much did you say for the water main?
$98,000.
Oh, okay, here I
Different than what we
I
have.
have 62,000.
That was 4 years ago.
Yes, now that we have the new bids in, this was the lowest eligible bid that we received. Just, again, demonstrating how much construction costs have.
We have that in our letter dated July 10th.
Yes, and we went to bid just the weeks after that letter was written. That letter, I believe, also includes Navia's house as part of the project. We decided to put before the council everything toward Harbor House, because that way it is specifically at the exact same site that the original ARPA funds were requested for.
Go ahead, please.
So we have here what the original scope was for. What happens to all of these things that you wanted the money for?
They're wrapped into the larger $47 million project. So we're not going to replace windows right now at the beginning of the project, now that we are getting our $47 million. A part of that is the window project. So it's just the softer costs at the beginning of doing site prep that is more integral. I mean, we didn't know that at the time in 2021. So.
Go ahead, please.
So what I'm understanding is that the initial scope of work that you wanted to get done will be getting done. It's just a different pot of money.
You got it.
Okay, all right, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, when we first wrote the grant, essentially these were standalone projects, not wrapped into the larger scope. Now we're just hoping for the flexibility with the larger capital stack to really wrap it in that way. Flexibility.
Did we not change this one time, the requirement? Initially, you asked us to do 365,000 was to do certain project, and then you came to us and asked us to change the allocation.
To the early learning center, but it was outside of the city, and so it was denied. Right. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes.
Correct.
It didn't actually, they wanted to move that money to the early learning center. It was in Rotterdam.
Oh.
And from our prior experience, we're not paying for things outside of the city. So it didn't even get here.
Right.
That's
Right.
not acceptable.
Right.
That would not have been acceptable.
Right.
So, Mr. Mudaviran, I do have, are you talking about this?
Yes.
Do you have it?
Yeah, go ahead.
So initially in our resolution that we did in 2022, this $364,449 was for permanent housing for the 400 single occupancy units, right? And the repair of the building at 44 Washington Avenue. And this is still,
Yes.
but the Harbor House is really, is it really at 44 or is it behind 44?
Harbor House is the entire project now, so it's the renovation of the current 1929 building and the establishment of the new building. The funds that we're asking for you to reallocate or to be more flexible with are for that 44 Washington Avenue 1929 building.
And some of it's for Harbor House, based on this.
The entire project is called Harbor House. It's just a project name.
Yes, Harbor House is two phases, so it includes the new development behind 44 Washington Avenue, but it's also the substantial rehabilitation of the 44 Washington Avenue affordable housing units.
Let's move in.
Go ahead, please. Sorry.
Because originally in 2022, they're separate. You have Harbor House, which we gave $750,000 to, and you call that something separate, Harbor House. And then the critical needs was separate, so it wasn't considered one big project.
So at that time, it was a two-phase project that we were trying to get funded separately, two different funding streams. Since then, we've put all of the funding together to do it in one phase. being the renovation and the creation of the new building. So it is all one phase of building going on.
And this is because of the tax credits that are available,
Right.
is that we are more competitive if we were to do it all in one stage.
On a larger scale.
simultaneously.
Thank you.
Go ahead, please.
And thank you for that overview. My one question is, you said these new modifications for that allocated money, you said they weren't wrapped into the larger project. Can you just explain why? Did I heard that correctly?
We thought we were going to get funded a lot sooner for the larger project, and so as we were waiting and waiting and waiting, and now we're getting the funding, there's this overlap now, because as Zenolith, who is our partner in the big project, and they are the contractors and the developers, they were like, we don't think we should do windows if we have to do abatement yet.
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
Why would we put in new windows if we have to do lead abatement and asbestos abatement? So we would actually be wasting the city's money if we did some of these projects first, rather than doing it in the way that, Christic Construction is saying we should do it. So this has been a large process of conversation to make sure we're not wasting dollars by doing new windows, and then all of a sudden, well, we've got to rip those out because there's asbestos behind them. So does that explain?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Sure.
In your original ask in the application, you mentioned that you need immediate need for repairs. Are those fall into safety concerns? Or why
I'm
not
not gonna
repair? Why not repair them with this money?
We are, but they need to be wrapped into the larger project because there's steps that have to be taken. Like step one is not to put new windows in. Step one is going to be to do abatement within the building because it's a 1929 building. So there's a lot of asbestos or lead that needs to be taken care of. And then we'll move on. I am not a developer, nor am I a construction contractor. So they have asked us to request this reallocation in light of the entire larger project to make sure we're not wasting the city's dollars by doing something that seems a bit out of line with the process that should take place. That's why we need a little bit more
That's what I'm trying to get at in terms of it was needed there for immediate
Still
repair.
needed.
So why not do it? Why wait until next year?
Because we'd be ripping them out and wasting the dollars to do other things that need to be done around, say the windows or the drain pits, and that's why the water main is the first thing we're doing, because that's kind of like a hard cost. You need a good water main to be able to put in the number of units we're going to be putting in.
I just want a clarification. You said who recommended that you?
Well, the construction company.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Krista is our big contractor on the larger project, the $47 million project. So we don't want to go put new windows in if they're going to come back and say, well, now we're going to rip those out because, we're trying to work with, there's 9 or 10 of us on this project team.
So far, none of this work has been done.
Well, the water main is under, we've got the specs and we've got the drawings and we've sent it out to bid and we've gotten approval from the city for the bidder and they're coming on site this week to actually do a final walkthrough. So that's going to proceed imminently, but the other areas are not.
And to clarify that the timeline has changed because, as we said, we had to pretty substantially change our funding strategy for the project. At first, it was 2 different phases, and we were pursuing a different line of tax credits, which was deeply competitive, and because we are in a historic district, we were already ineligible because our costs were higher no matter what we did. So going toward this new
So from 9% to 4%.
9% to 4%. That is why the timeline has shifted, but we are really confident now that we have our capital stack in order and we're ready to go in early spring 2025.
Go ahead, please.
I know you can never be 100% confident. How confident are you that there are no other obstacles or barriers ahead, or how much of that funding is completely aligned?
I don't even want to think about that, but I'm going to say 99% sure. We've spoken with people at the state level. We're in conversations with all of the different funding sources, which, ESHI dollars, the 4% tax credit folks, HHAP, HFA, all of the letters. So, and they're all saying this is a go. So I have to say, unless some catastrophic world event happens, we are a go.
So that's kind of the follow-up on his question. So you believe that all your money is going to be, because you have a significant gap, the current gap, based on this. This is
I don't know what you're looking at.
I'm looking at the letter that you sent.
It's just for this.
The current gap. Is that the current gap?
That's,
So the HCR funds that we are pursuing, this is the final capital stack. That is the tax credits that we are referring to. We are essentially just in line.
we're in line with the 4% tax credit.
Yes, we have to wait until we are
Number one.
first in queue, essentially, and that is the remaining gap there that we are referring to.
So when you go for a 4% tax credit, the difference between 4% and 9% is that you get in a line for your project. And we keep being told we are right there, meaning, and they've given us the date. They have given us the date of spring 2025 when we'll be ready. Darren Scott from HCR has spoken with us and told us that. So until our number comes up in the queue, it's like waiting for a transplant. We don't know right when it's going to happen, but all of the powers that be are saying early spring, be ready to go. And we are proceeding with our developers and all of the, I mean, we meet weekly, sometimes twice weekly, with everybody on the team because we're going. I don't know what else I can do other than I would need to get a letter from HCR, but 4% tax credits don't work that way. Anybody else?
Go ahead, please.
So you say pending from the city, 1.5 million? Home?
The home funds, we are reapplying.
We have to reapply
On the
for those.
ground in order to be better in the funding timeline with our home ARP funds.
It was a timeline discrepancy, so we have to wait for the next round, is what we were told. Why we didn't get the home up, which is a 1.5 request. But we have 44 other $1 million we're going to be using. This isn't a 1-month project, it's like a 12 to 18 month project. So the project will get underway with all the other dollars in the stack.
Any other questions? You have your hand? Mr. Mancini? No. Put your hands up. Come on.
Wiping his eyes.
How do we, this is a question for the council. I mean, I can't recall that we moved funding from one project to another project. I think we moved funding within the same project, but a little bit of deviation from the description, the specification. So this is...
That's all that's happening here, is just moving it internally within the building, what's getting done at what time.
That's what we're doing.
Go ahead, please.
I'm comfortable with this. I mean, I think that they've done their due diligence. The construction project, as, you know, again, like Kim, I'm not a construction manager or a contracting company, but I think we all know that things can change. So again, it is just using our money to meet the changing needs that have happened, but it's still the same project, which is obviously still a really valuable project in terms of the folks that will receive this housing. You know, it's very important that they do. So I'm in support of this.
Go ahead, please.
So so my question earlier was around like the scope of the project, to make sure that the original scope was still going to be met, which is really important to me. And I think that my question is not around like, you know, importance of this project or whether it's supported or not. It does kind of make me think about like our flexibility with other projects as well, right? And I want to just, you know, again, I'm always going to be trying to encourage us to use an equitable lens when we approach everything that we're doing here. And I'm just wondering about our consistency of kind of the flexibility with other projects that we have too. So that's just a thought in my head as far as this right here. I think that if the original scope of the project is going to be met, then, you know, I could see how we could make a justification for doing it. But to what I think your earlier point was, I don't know if we've had other projects come forth and request something similar, and we haven't given it to them based on what the original agreement was. So I just think about that stuff. I think that we want to continue to be flexible as we can.
Go ahead, please.
And this project has changed dramatically in terms of its scope, where it was originally proposed to do the new building on the rear of the campus and leave the front building in a, in disrespect, less than a desirable condition, then try and line up the money for it. What has happened is they've lined up the money for the whole project. As a result of that, it's taken a little bit longer, but there are these components of the water line, some of the other features, the front steps that were done, that were always originally planned to be done, just the timing has changed a little bit. And so I again would ask the council to move ahead with these recommended changes, and that is going to be a project that reflects well on that organization. It is going to dramatically increase its ability to serve its targeted group, and everybody's going to look good at the end of this.
Go ahead,
I
please.
just have a question, this question. So what happens if the 1.5 million, when you go to the next round? Because and how it goes, you put it in, and it doesn't work out, you put it in again, it doesn't work out. What happens to your project if the 1.5 million does not come through?
Well, 1.5 million out of 47 million is really a small, and I know it's not small, but in this particular situation, we'd be going to the investors who have already signed off on the project to increase their support. We have a number of large investors involved because it's 4% tax credit. So we'd do that. I mean, and Kyla's been an extraordinary grant writer. I can't predict the future. I'd love to say that. I'd love to predict the future. The project would already be done. But because I can't, you know, that's a valid, it's a really valid question. But I don't think we'll stop until we get the bucket full, if that does happen.
So you're ready to go ahead and spend $98,000 for the water main replacement?
Well, we have the bids ready. And so.
And the balance is going towards the harbor house?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The 266,449.
And I have to, piggyback on Mr. Farley comment there that, I mean, we're going to have to be open up if anybody else come forward before us, with a recommendation wanted to move to a next project. We're going to have, because this is the first time we're doing this, we're moving an entire project, funding into another project. So if some agency come before us, we have to have an open lens to look at that.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, definitely. So because as far as this project here goes, I mean, this is, and even to the mayor's point, I think that it has changed, but it's changed in scope and changed for the better, right? I think that this is something that's good, that you'll be able to have a larger impact in the community. You have a serving, do very important work. So all things are, all those things are true. I guess my conversation amongst the council is that as we do this, I think that we are in a really unique position with this funding, that we can be somewhat more flexible than what we can do with traditional funding. I just want us to keep that same energy as we're approaching, other projects that are living in the city, and even some of our kind of smaller projects who don't might not have the same capacity to raise. Do the great work that you're doing institutionally right now, raise that type of capital. That was just my point.
Absolutely.
I support that, yeah.
Well, I think, I just have to say that I would be open to hearing if there were other projects, but again, I think we need to really examine on a case-by-case basis.
Oh,
and
for
make
sure.
sure that,
Yeah.
What's their experience, what's their expertise, what is the rest of the funding package. I guess I wouldn't want to be carte blanche. I mean, we'd be open to looking at other things if they come up, but we have to make our judgments based on a case-by-case basis.
Absolutely.
So let me, because I want to clear any confusion around me saying that, obviously we have to make the informed decisions and the right calculations is what you're saying. What I was saying is that, my point is that to be equitable in our approach is to make sure that we are being as flexible and responsive as we can be to all of agencies that are coming forth to do this work, and I don't want to be in a position to where, we're not showing that same flexibility and understanding, because as important as it is in this, which I'm full supporter, by the way, I just want to make sure that we have that same type of lens when we're looking at people, because sometimes I don't know that we do that without having that sense of intentionality and really stating it explicitly in the beginning of a conversation. That's why I think it's important to be noted.
Go ahead, please.
So I guess I'm trying to be considerate of the next topic that's coming down the line of where the rest of our projects are. It sounds as if, you've been very clear, the water main replacement is all but funds need to allow or approve this adjustment. I'm very comfortable moving forward with that. Can you speak to the critical health and safety updates? Is that something that you're in a similar position to also with the bid and contract, or is that work that is going to be adjusted to the back end? I guess what I'm trying to identify is these additional construction costs, is that across the entirety of the project, where is it anything that we're talking about sense of urgency, we have to get processed right now, or are you just trying to leverage the monies where you're not having to repeat work?
Well, this will be wrapped into the larger project that will start in March. So again, we'll be at the mercy of the contractors.
Okay.
Obviously, they'll probably address the health and safety issues first, and one of the biggest ones is abatement. And so that's where the scope might change a little, but the drainage, the water main definitely needs to start, because in order for us to create the new building in the back, we need a higher level of water coming through. The drainage pits are going to be part of the larger project. Obviously, we wouldn't be doing those until things that are going to fall from the upper levels with the renovation aren't going to destroy whatever work might be done down below. And the windows will be done at a time when we know that we've rebuilt all the sills. The sills are not in great repair, and then put the new windows in.
By amending the budget to cover the early stages of construction, we're being extra considerate of the funding timeline and deadlines of ARPA, where even if something does change, even if the timeline does, God forbid, change one more time, it's absolutely going to be done by the June 30th, 2026 deadline. Doing the early stages is, if anything, the best insurance that we can have for this project, which is changing day by day and taking so many twists and turns. And while we are talking about this in a larger, broader context of the Harbor House project, ultimately the original ARPA grant was for critical capital repairs at 44 Washington Avenue,
Right.
and it is still for critical capital repairs at 44 Washington Avenue.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, please.
Thank you for the presentation. I think the spirit and scope and intent of the proposal remains the same. And I think as we all know, variables change and they can change rapidly. So I'm in support of the modifications, and also what Councilman Farley mentioned is that we need to be open to looking at, as people encounter barriers and changes in the original proposals, that there may be a need for that, and how we entertain that in an equitable way, as Mr. Farley said. So I'm happy to support this.
I have a question.
Go ahead, please.
So you're taking Navia's house out of this?
It was never in it.
Navia's house was never. Navia's
I'm only
house.
going by what I had.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead, Kylie.
Navia's house was never part of the Harbor House project. We were thinking about long-term, our funding prospects, where we are so focused on Harbor House, we are so focused on the Early Learning Center move. There wasn't any flexibility currently to apply to other prospects for needed changes at Navia's house. That's why initially we added it here, but as we spoke and realized, as we want to change as little as possible to the actual scope of our ARPA project, we wanted to cause as little friction as possible, which is exactly why we removed.
We didn't do a good job.
That is why we removed.
There's lots of questions still.
And kept it only at 44 Washington Avenue, just to keep it as close to the original proposal as possible.
So where's Navia's house actually located? Oh, you can't tell me.
Yeah, we can. Next door to it's the oldest building in the stockade. It's right next to the YW.
It's on that main campus.
It's not.
It's the little building next to the YW.
All right, thank you. I know some places.
Yeah, no, it's not significant. It used to be.
All right. So what happens to that?
We've received other funding sources to support that one.
We've got 25,000 so far, and we still have a gap, but we can move forward with at least
Some of the work at
preliminary,
obviously.
yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Are you ready to spend this money?
Is this a game show? Yes, do I get to run off?
Yes, I'm in support of this reallocation. And talking with our attorney here, we're going to have to amend this resolution and incorporate the two allocation into one. So I'm going to ask for a motion to amend resolution number 2024-224 to come back 2022-224. And to combine the YWCA New York critical capital needs request to Harbor House at YWCA Northeast New York to combine total of $1,114,449. All in favor? Aye. So just to recap, so we just combined the two lines into one and allocate the funding on the Harbor House at YWCA NENY.
Yes? Do we have the vote yet?
It's already voted.
Was that voted? Oh, thank you. Thank you very, very much. We appreciate your support and your flexibility.
Go spend that money.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
The next item is a continuum of care 20-bed contract. Ms. Carville.
We received our allocation from HUD for the 20 meds in the amount of $182,522. So today I'm coming before council, asking for permission so the mayor we can go into contract with the YMCA.
Questions? Go ahead, please.
So I just want, on the evaluation analysis, I just want to be clear about the $4,141 to the city and the Y. So that's
$8,000. It's double that. So we get for admin $8,200, and we split that. So half for the 4,100 is for the Y, and the 4,100 is for the city.
And that's a one-time.
That is one time.
Okay, because the word monthly was in here. And I was like, we get that monthly?
You know, I submitted some of these under distress, so my...
Okay, so that's a one-time allocation.
Yes.
Thank you. I'll take out the word monthly, because we'd be looking for it. Thank you. That's the only question.
Any other questions? Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. The next item is to review the 2024-2025 final annual action plan allocation. Ms. Carville.
Yes, that is me.
Yep.
Last but not least, I am here before the council for review and to accept our final allocation for HUD for the 2024-2025 annual action plan. We had our public comment period for 30 days. We also had our public hearing, and with success, we had no comments. So I'm asking council to approve that.
Go ahead, please.
So, Ms. Carver, I did see an organization on here, let me see if I can find it now, I did, when I reviewed it, I highlighted. That was a privately owned business that we were, where is it? Oh, first page. On page 32 of your AIK property. I know that's everything else is like BCNI, all of those are not-for-profits. And so AIK, I know, is a privately owned business. And this is my first time ever seeing us allocate those money, so speak to that.
Yes, so I'm glad that you asked. This is probably the first time, but our home funds, and as a PJ, which is a participating jurisdiction, we've always had the flexibility to use for-profit As long as the project is in line with our consolidated plan for the 5 years that we put forth with HUD, we can use it. And the same goes with CDBG funds. We just have not had an entity that applied that will qualify and had a qualifiable project.
Okay.
So home funds is strictly for tenant-based rental, home buying, and, hold on, you done got me all disheveled. Let me go to my notes, sorry. So there's 4 activities. Homeowner rehabilitation, okay, home buyer activities, which a developer is included, rental housing, and tenant-based rental assistance. So AIK is looking to do affordable housing in an area that we're addressing blight.
Okay.
So that is in line with the current plan for community development. As you also can see, Madam President, they asked for a significant amount more.
Okay.
So we do understand that they've never done this before with the city. We have to do a risk analysis to make sure that they are capable, they have the capacity to manage this funding, which is why we gave them a little bit to show that we are leveraging some of the for-profit organizations in our community to address affordable housing.
Okay. And so their project is already, it's all outlined here, so this is a specific project where this funds would go?
Yes, and our home specialist is going to give technical assistance to AIK because we know we only gave them a small amount. So that 100 and something thousand is not going to be able to satisfy their whole project, but maybe 1 unit.
Thank you.
Good.
So I have some specific questions about several of these, so I don't know if you want to do them.
Go ahead, please. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so the first one would be for Habitat of Humanity. They asked for 346, 420. We're giving them 200. And maybe this answer might cover some of the other questions as well, but will they then just adapt their project, or are they?
Yes, they will have to give, based on the allocation, they'll give an updated budget to
Okay.
use those funds.
Okay, and then the next one would be the City of Troy and that consortium agreement. Did they back out? Is that why we're not giving them any money?
No, we gave them money.
Well, I mean, oh yes,
Yeah,
okay,
we-
I'm sorry. I'm looking in the wrong column on that one, sorry. To the Boys and Girls Club, in terms of the youth programs that they do for us, is it that we have other money that we've given them for Central Park? Is that
They only applied for Jerry Burrell.
the one that's on page 34, Quackenbush, Hillhurst, Steinmetz?
Okay, that's the internal, yeah. So that gets, Boys and Girls Club does the work, but it's managed internally by engineering.
Okay. So this is not, this looks like it's the activities that they're offering for you.
Are you talking about the
These are for use of personal and non-personal.
Oh, she's talking there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're giving them what they asked for. I was just curious as to, whether they were getting other funding for Central Park.
I do not see any money
Okay.
for Central Park,
Okay.
but engineering has funding for park improvement, so I wouldn't see why that wouldn't fall into there.
Then, let me just, I was just wondering on the Schenectady Foundation's One Schenectady Resident-Driven Change, whether anybody from the city is being represented on that committee, if there's any, I don't think there's city council representation, but I didn't know if maybe you or someone from your office was
No, I
part of
have
that.
not been invited yet to that.
Yeah, I'd like to see somebody from the city get
Okay.
invited to be a part of that coalition.
I can speak, I mean, I think that's open, and I was asked, I was like, I really didn't have time, so I think it's an
Yeah.
open process. They've been doing this for a while, so my
Yeah.
understanding is there were invitations out there, and there was an open process for people to be a part of it.
Oh, okay, so
Yes.
okay, I see what you're saying. All right. Skip that one for now. That's it. Those are my questions. Thank you.
I have one here. Under the funding for the empowerment center, they had asked for 262,000, and the proposal here is 75K.
Well, they also encompass in their application a lot of programming that doesn't exist right now. So we score these applications, we have a scorecard. So based on what the Empowerment Center spent last year is what we allocated. So last year, they were awarded roughly $30,000. We gave them additional money that equaled up to $75,000, and they were able to spend majority of that down. So that's where that $75,000 allocation came from.
Okay, go ahead, please.
I'm glad you said scorecard, because I was going to ask. I know during our ARPA conversations, there's a lot of criticism, but one of the takeaways that I appreciated was having, I know that was before your tenure here, but having a, I guess, barometer of where the planning and development department felt with each project. For me, I was asking if there's a way to include a column to just highlight how many years said organizations have been receiving funding, but I guess what I'm specifically asking for is what is their ability to meet like the tangibles, I guess the efficacy of them delivering.
So that's one of the things that they're scored on in the application, right? Also, being in compliance, how they spend the money now, the team has considered all of those things when looking at these applications. Some of our, I would be remiss if I didn't say this, some of our sub-recipients, we're trying to kind of wean them off of support, so to speak, to be sustainable without every year applying for the funds so that we can open up the pool and do maybe internal projects, because right now a lot of our smaller sub-recipients solely depend on the City of Schenectady CDBG funding, so we're trying to give them the support to be able to apply for other funding so that we can use some of the funding for some of our internal priorities, like trash.
Is that information that you feel comfortable disclosing on this form? Not now, because I know we're at the final
Probably
stage.
not on this form, but I can give you some of the stats from the scorecards from the reviewer redacting who the reviewer are, because my team was worried about that too. If I tell you who reviewed the application, but I can provide you
I
with
appreciate
that.
that. Thank you.
The next one I have here is Wildwood programs. Can you brief us on this? Since this is a new program.
Wildwood is a shelter and is part of the consortium, actually. So they're funded with home. And I don't have all of the deets on Wildwood at the top of my head, so I will have to send that to you, Councilman. I apologize.
Please send it to the entire council.
No, I definitely will.
Mr. Mudavaren, she can send it to Michael.
Yes, yes.
It's a lot of sub-recipients to remember every detail.
You're doing a great job.
Any other questions? Go ahead, please.
I just think you said that you're going to send a scorecard out to her.
Yeah, I'll send an overview or a summary on how they score, the main points.
Is that an internal criteria that you created for the scorecard, or is that something?
It was not used in the past,
Okay.
but it is used now.
Yeah. Good work.
I think their version of a scorecard was just different. They talked about it, but nothing that we had receipts in case somebody challenged what we're putting forward.
Any other question?
No, I just want to commend you on, I know it was a lot of work, but getting it down, making sure you had answers to all our questions, so really appreciate that.
Thank you. Now I'm really hot.
Seeing no other question, I would like to move a motion that we adopt the 2024-2025 annual action plan.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Good work.
The next item is the Downtown District Pump Station Modernization Project. Mr.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The legislative request you have in front of you tonight is to authorize the mayor to enter into engineering and planning grant with New York State EFC for $50,000 towards a preliminary engineering study of the two pump stations in downtown, one the South Ferry Street pump station and the other would be the Broadway pump station. Pump stations are old. They've been there and not been touched up, the motors and parts for the last 45 years that I've been here. So our development has changed down there. They're getting more flow. So the study from Clough Harbor was $60,000, but there is a $50,000 grant from EFC to offset the cost, so the cost is going to be $10,000. The preliminary engineering review is sort of a prerequisite to move forward, to be eligible for future grant if we decide to do something with those pump stations and go into a design for upgrading. So that is part of the criteria to have a preliminary engineering report prior to doing something else with the project. It gives us eligibility for future grants for that project.
Questions? Seeing none, may I have a motion to move this item forward?
So moved.
Second, all in favor? Aye, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I did.
Oh, sorry.
Well, it's not this one particular project, but I know that we had another pump. I didn't know there were so many pump stations, first of all, let me just say that, in the city. But I knew that we had the pump station, you mentioned it at the legislative conference on Washington Avenue.
That's a stormwater.
Stormwater, okay. So is it a similar, I think last year we allocated money?
The difference is the Washington Avenue Pump House, we do have current money to start working on that. That is a stormwater, so that handles stormwater flow.
Okay.
The two pump stations in downtown, the South Ferry and the Broadway, are sanitary. So that's the difference. But their impact, because, what we call INI, inflow and infiltration, is when stormwater still, because the pipes are 100 years old in the city, they still infiltrate the sanitary lines. So they're still, if it was a perfectly closed, tight system, what everybody used as wastewater in their houses, apartments, and restaurants and businesses would only be in that pipe. But the flow is always greater because the condition of pipes, old pipes, they crack, they're clay pipes, they just get natural infiltration. So the manholes, they're brick manholes, so you get natural infiltration, which creates more water going through that pump station than if it was just a clay sewer system. So the Washington Avenue pump station is another project which is part of the resiliency project along with the wastewater treatment plant river pumps. So we do have grant money for that, considerable amount of grant money that was granted to us earlier this year.
So do we have a time, is it going to be similar to this, we have to have a study, et cetera, and so on?
That study's been done. We have the grant money. Okay. Now we have to enter an agreement with a consulting firm. Okay. And then they'll do design. That project is probably 18, maybe to 20, 24 months away because it is a big project. We're probably talking $20 million.
I just want to say it's not lost on us when you come forward and make these projects and have already secured some grant funding. I know that's like work that is not easily done, and as he walks in right on cue, Mr. Wilder. Okay, you're upset. No, I'm joking. But we do appreciate that, the efforts to try to leverage funding sources to get these projects
In the last
done.
5 years, I think we've got about $50 million in grants.
Pretty impressive, yeah.
That's great.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
The next item is amended and reinstated the first supplemental bond ordinance for Rice River Road Treatment Plant. Mr. Derrick.
Good evening. So the council approved this on June 10th, the resolution. There was a small tweak in the verbiage that was not included. It should have stated issuance of the project. It did say purpose was increased by approximately $5 million. So there was a small mistake in the verbiage, but that has been adjusted.
Questions?
Where's the grant money? No, I'm joking.
Motion to move this forward.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any other business for finance? I would like to recess the finance committee to Monday, August 12th at 5:30 p.m. Room 110 to continue discussion on the towing contract for H&K and AC Towing.
Do you need an hour and a half for that?
No, really. 5:30, 6.
I put an hour inside 6.
6. Sorry, thank you. 6, sorry. So we'll recess Monday, August 12th, 6 p.m.
Made a motion?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Second? All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I'd like to call to order City Development and Planning. We have 2 items on the agenda. First item is the follow-up for ARPA, and Ms. Carver's back, and she's provided this information to us. Everybody should have received an email regarding where we were with it.
So high level, the most significant things that you should know is that Electric City Co-op, they have reached all their pre-contractual requirements, and they are pending to go into contract. My hope was to have the contract done and executed this week, but that I was unable to get to that. But in the coming week, I should have an executed contract with them. They have gotten site and supplied everything that was required of them. So that's exciting. And they met that in the deadline that the extension that the City Council provided to them.
Great.
The 3 items that are currently still pending is our Miracle on Craig project, our Durree Foundation, and the Empowerment Center. So we have met with the Hamilton Hill Co-op after they've done their presentation to City Council. We met with Durree Foundation. I think that it's time for this to be revisited by the council. Durree, in meeting with them, they are looking to have their $200,000 to go towards programming, and so separated from what the resolution states. It is my hope that we can get all on the same page, the mayor, Department of Development, City Council, and all of the organizations to really kind of get this moving forward.
So how much money are we talking about between them, what they're now calling the Hamilton Hill Cooperative and Durree? And I know that initially Durree, the Empowerment Center and Durree were merged into one by development prior to you, so I know that. So how much money is there overall in that piece? And then keep looking at our phone.
I have to get a calculator because I don't know that offhand.
Okay.
So we have the 575,000 would be empowerment, because they have their empowerment and Durree was together. They had 875,000.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Right? Can we look on the paper?
Yeah. Oh,
Because
yep.
that's going
We
to
sure
be easier
can.
for me.
Here it is. So, we'll get there. We have it.
Because I know it's broken down, but on the spreadsheet that I provided, I broke that down for City Council.
Okay. I don't think it's on this one. Okay.
So it's 875 for construction.
875, to the Empowerment House, Empowerment Center.
So there's $1 million between the two. There's $1 million. There's
So $1,075,500.
correct, and then 1.2 for Carver.
Yes.
1.25.
Okay, I remember that now. All right. And has any of the money been spent yet from the empowerment that was?
Yes, I've already deducted that.
Oh, okay. So it's still the 1,075,000 or not?
No, that 875 is not it was more than the 875 if I'm not correct. If I'm correct.
So you're saying that right now it's being considered as, that the Durree is asking to be removed from, they want to separate themselves and do their project separate and apart. Okay.
Madam President. So you just mentioned to us that there is $875,000 available for Durree and the Empowerment Center. Is that correct?
875 for empowerment, 200 for Durree.
Oh, 875 for empowerment and 200.
Oh, I thought the empowerment didn't spend any money?
Let me go to my last
Okay.
spreadsheet. I
I'm sorry.
apologize.
Isn't this the spreadsheet that?
Yep.
That's the update, but let me see what I got from.
Please come back. Let's see.
No, that's the original amount.
It is there in the description. Can't see this.
We had it on. We can see it better in the photo.
Yeah,
It's just highlighted in yellow in what we received
yeah,
by
in
email.
the email, yes.
So the 875 is minus what Ron, what he spent already.
Oh, okay. So 875 minus what's already been spent, we just don't know that number right now.
Yes, I'm gonna get you the number.
Okay,
It's
no
already,
problem.
the 875 is, that's the number.
That-
I've already
that represents
subtracted,
what-
that
Okay.
represents actual right
Okay,
now.
okay.
What is available, and I will get you the amount that Ron spent. Okay, let me correct myself. Mayor, you making me nervous. Okay, let me correct myself, okay? The Empowerment Center, and I apologize, City Council, has $794,116.
116.
They spent $52,004.
Okay,
So that $52,004 does need to be subtracted from the 875.
gotcha. Okay.
My apologies.
No problem. Okay.
This is what happens when you don't turn the air on.
Yes.
Is that what happens? Okay. All right. So moving forward, the plot plan is,
My hope is that, like I previously said, that we can work with the mayor, the entities that are involved, city council and development, and really, because I know that there's been some issues with how this money is to move forward. So I would like to be able to help facilitate it moving in the right direction.
Mr. Mayor?
No.
Oh, Ms. Barfield, so,
yes.
because, could you just refresh our memory in terms of the deadline to spend the money? And also, so you're confident that this is going to get completed by that any of this work is?
I don't know, Councilwoman. The deadline to spend, our internal deadline is October 2026, but
Okay.
our external deadline, which I relayed to our subrecipients, is June, to give
That's what I
us a
thought.
little bit of room to make sure we have everything that we need to report properly to the U.S. Treasury.
Okay,
So June 30th is our outward-facing deadline to the public
okay.
to spend now, but I can't confidently answer that question, because either way, the project, Carver, the co-op, there is still a gap, and I think that one of the concerns is just addressing how how that money is gonna move forward. The mayor did have some ideas.
That was going to be my next question,
You want
because
to-
it says that you met
if
with.
you want to share your ideas?
We're, how do you put the money together for Carver? Is what the bigger project is, and there's not enough money on the table, so we're having discussions to see if we can move more money into that building.
So so for the cooperative, because I'm going to start Carver, the cooperative, because it's on where they're going to Craig Main connection, are there not opportunities, and because it's a historic building, to assist, as we've been doing with the Y, to assist with, trying to find some funding for them and, helping them, because they don't have the capacity of the Y, we all know that. But is there ways to assist, especially since it's sitting there right at a place where there's going to be major renovation? So that's, for me, with the Carver building. And my understanding is they're also seeking funding from other sources in addition to what we provided.
Yes, they should have, we did ask for some additional information from them recently with the deadline, so I'm looking to get their updated plans on what organizations are included in the co-op. And that will help us find other sources too. The Department of Development and Planning supports that, trying to find other sources to go towards the Carver Center, which I've already relayed that to the mayor as well. So we have the information out to our city grant writer, who has it on her radar. So we are looking to assist.
Well, if Dury, since they submitted their application separately and they're asking now to have it separated again, I would be supportive of that so that they can move ahead while they're not waiting for the Carver to line up all of their funding. If this funding is going to get them where they need to go without waiting. That's what I'm hearing you say, that they want to be separate, and so.
They did articulate that.
Mr. Moudavera and Mr. Then over here.
To your point, I mean, I would suggest that we ask them for an updated budget, because the last time it came, it was $200,000 operating costs. I mean, it's a year and a half ago, so I would recommend that we ask them for an updated budget in terms of operating costs, so that we can see where it lands today before we proceed to make any final allocation.
Are you both entities, or are you just speaking about?
But you mentioned about Dury moving forward. They wanted to go separate, and I want to join team with the Empowerment Center. So I'm speaking specifically about Dury Foundation for an updated budget.
Mr. Williams?
So my question is, if we can kind of take a step back to a previous agenda item, the CDBG, the final approval. When you are considering funding organizations, is that done with any considerations for other funding streams, or are you looking singularly between the monies that you have available to apply with programs?
Say that again, Councilman.
So my bigger question is, I'm looking at the city's decision to fund the Empowerment Center at a considerably less level than what they requested, and I'm worried about us funding it and their scalability to meet that big ask of, I think you said, what, $80,000 is still outlining? And if we're trying to identify additional funding to support a resource that everyone has been in agreement with supporting, I think it makes sense to move a considerable amount, if not all of that, to support this larger effort.
I think that's kind of what's been on the table from the mayor, to move the money that was allocated to the Empowerment Center to the larger effort.
But if I'm hearing him correctly, and I know you can't speak to the mayor, it's right there, the understanding, it sounds like, to pool all three of these projects together, and I don't know if that's to a detriment to any singular one being effective.
That's what we're trying to work out. Money is not there in the initial review to do the Carvers.
Do we
I'm
know-
sorry, Mr. Mantino.
Do we know how much they need, what would be sufficient? And we're talking the building renovations.
Their number was in the ballpark of $3.2 million. I'm not comfortable even using that number because it's been a period of time, so in fact it may be a larger number to complete what would be an adequate stabilization and adaptive reuse of that facility. And the historic designation is not helping.
Oh, it's not.
No.
Okay. Mr. Orley, was your hand up or no?
No, I wouldn't know.
Okay.
My question I answered on the conversation, that's right.
All right.
Oh, so,
If your hand is up
see,
there?
now you got me. So the one question I had is, this is not coming for us for 30 to separate them out tonight? Are we voting on that tonight?
No, we're just
Okay,
having
all
a conversation
Okay.
right now. She's updating us on where we are with ARPA.
Sure.
And so these are the 3 projects that are outstanding. We're speaking of them separately.
Right.
So that's what we're just having. this
Yeah, I was just wondering if that was something that was going to be action tonight. Okay.
And seeing how much money there is remaining out of the money that was originally allocated. Mr. Moudavera has said that he would like to see an updated budget from Dury Foundation. And
She's prepared to do that from our conversation as well.
Oh, okay.
Since she's now asking, when she came to present to council, she was re-asking for her original ask before it was brought together, which was of like 900 and something thousand. So the budget that the council has for that does not support the programming. So she is aware, and we have asked for that.
And do we also need to hear from the co-op as to where they are with funding?
Yes.
Because we have, we're in August now, we'll have a lot of time.
No, both organizations were given the deadline for updated budgets and outlining the demographics that they're going to serve as for Friday, August 9th.
This Friday.
All of the organizations have been given that same.
Those three.
Not empowerment.
Okay, understood.
Some of that empowerment money was to rehab the building. So if you have another building, the program delivery can be moved.
Mr. Williams.
I feel comfortable speaking plainly. I don't golf, but I understand the importance of us funding the irrigation system because it is a really good resource within individuals that partake in that community. I understood the importance of us doubling our funding for the Central Park pool. I don't swim, but I understand the importance of providing that resource to not only our youth, but parents who don't have the ability to keep their bodies cooled down in hot climates, as we've been experiencing throughout the summer of this year. I'm looking forward to the investment that Arena will bring to our community, among other tangible budget allocated items that facilitate a certain need for a certain community. I think it is safe to say that this community resource center, I don't have the words because I'm very passionate about this, we need to find the funding. And if that means that we need to dissolve the empowerment center as of now, I am in full support of doing that. If that means it buys time for us to leverage other opportunities. But to say at this point, we're now skeptical because all the numbers don't outline, I would say I was supportive of other projects and I'm asking for that for this.
Madam President.
So,
Ms. Carver, you mentioned that you asked Dury for an updated budget. Is there any timeline attached to that?
August 9th.
August.
Friday.
August 9th.
This Friday.
Thank you. I missed that, sorry.
and one other thing, and actually this is like more for finance, when the auditor came, one of the things he said is that there were still 31 million in ARPA funds. So I don't know what that breakdown looks like but if there's, I'm not sure, he just said 31 million. So I didn't know if that meant money that we had, I didn't know what that number was, allocated, encumbered, I didn't know what. But he said there was still 31 million in his audit report of ARPA funds. So my question is, how is that money broken down? What's been allocated, what's been encumbered? How is that 31 million? And that question is not for you. But that question would be, as we're considering this, and seeking ways to fund projects, what's that 31 million breakdown look like? We would need the answer to that question.
So can we request an updated ARPA allocation?
From finance?
Finance. In terms of what was allocated, what was spent to date, and what is available.
Yes, I see a head nod back
Money
there.
has been allocated or appropriated, may not have actually been spent. So some of the cash is still there, and that was as of December 31st, so it's over half a year ago. And we've closed out some of these contracts. We've spent the money, paid for the swimming pool, and the things at the golf course, so that money is nowhere near 31 million.
Create a report for you, and that money was used in the general operating account too.
I can't, could you come up here because I can't hear you and I want everybody to hear what you're saying. Thank you.
So, as you are aware, some of that money was in the general operating account. There's ARPA funds in that. Capital projects, and then the list of everything that you've been going over just now. But if you need a breakdown, I'm sure we can do that for you. What's been actually spent, encumbered, allocated.
Yes, I think that
Yes.
we need to see that.
That would be ideal for the council, to see where we are.
Thank you very much. Are there other questions for Ms. Carver or anything regarding the ARPA? Thank you very much for your time. We'll look forward to getting the updated budget. And is there a plan for all entities to have a discussion?
Yes, I will reach out to the Director of Operations, get the mayor's schedule, and coordinate something for the council.
All right, thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is to award bid and contract for the Central Park roadway improvements. Mr. Wallen?
Hello.
Hello.
As you're aware, the city wanted to move forward with a Central Parkway Complete Streets project, part of the sidewalk assessment program that the council put in place several years ago. Project went through several designs. The design that was landed on was Concept D. Concept D was put together, bid. We received numerous bids for the work. The bids are in your package. The bids, with the exception of an outlier, were very tight. And the low bid was Keller Construction at, which I have here, $1.07 million. We have worked with Keller before, not too much recently, but I did reach out to their project manager today and speak with them with our engineer, and they're comfortable with their bid and they're looking to move forward with it. So we have no reason not to move forward with the bid.
Any questions, Mr. Tavera?
Would you be able to give us a brief timeline?
So the timeline is, we discussed it today because I knew you would ask about it. We don't think we're going to have enough time to do the entire street given the size of the street. There's two options that we have, and the option is we can do half of the street possibly and do one side of it, get the concrete in and get the sidewalk curb and all that, do binder course and leave it, or we can push the whole project and wait till the spring. The reason that we don't want to push the project too late is that the project is a concrete project. A lot of concrete, a lot of time, and it's already August. So what we need is if we place the concrete in October, and then somehow we get ice in November, and we have anyone put any kind of ice melt down, we would have to go out and almost police it. Because you need a minimum of 30 days, and then it also gets into the back and forth of if something were to happen like spalling, which has happened on rare occasions on some projects. It comes into a he said, is it the concrete or is it the salt? And then we go back and forth on that. So I really don't want to get into an entertaining where we have even the question of that. I really want to make sure that the concrete sets up for 30 days. We just did talk with a contractor today. This would be a subcontractor, so he's reaching out to the subcontractor this week to see what he can do. Also, it's a lot of curbing. It's an incredible amount of curbing, and as you recall, last year there was a curbing shortage. Now that has eased up, so there may be, but this is, given the islands and that the street would be a complete makeover, a lot of curbing. So, I mean, we want to push, but at the same time, we don't want to cut our nose to spite our face and push just to get half done and then have complaints that there could be an issue or, somebody, you know what's going to happen is someone is going to put out some type of a rock salt, thinking it's not a rock salt, and there could be an issue. So to avoid that, but I know that we said we're going to try to get it done this year. I'm not trying to make excuses, but the timing is what it is. It's August, and this is a very large project. There's also drainage involved. I just want to make sure you're aware of that. This is a big project. We're putting in all new catch basins. We're redoing some of the drainage. We're putting in parking. We're putting in new, sub-base where there currently is grass. So it's a large project. It's much larger than the past sidewalk assessment projects that we've done in the city. This is more of a street reconstruction. So that's why timing. If we were to do half, it would most likely be the side without the parking because we feel like that side would be quicker. And so there could be a benefit to doing that, but I just need to make sure that the sidewalk is in enough time to cure and set up.
So would that be your recommendation to do half of it on the side without the parking so that you have something there this year?
That's probably not my recommendation. I don't think to disturb everyone and go forward just to say that we did it. I don't know if that's good, because we would get half of it done, and let's say we're all done and out of there by November 1st, right? All done, paved. To binder course, we wouldn't be top course. So, I mean, even saying that out loud, right, that would mean that if we put the curb in there, we're an inch lower. So our 1 inch curb reveals now are 2 inches of driveway. So I'm going to get complaints about my driveway's too steep. You know, there's a lot that could go in, and I don't know about the economies. You know, like we waited for Kings Road Bridge until the end of winter so that we could start and get it done in one season instead of starting and shutting down and starting again. So I would probably recommend that we just get it all done in one, but I'll wait to hear back from the contractor. You know, I see you guys every 2 weeks. I can report back to you at the next time, but we just talked with them today. I can see what their subcontractor's schedule is, but I don't think there's any right now path that has the entire street done by November 1st. I just think it's too much of a project. And remember, we have to do contracts and bonds, and there's a lot of legwork after you approve it as well. So,
Is there any consideration to have multiple subcontractor for this project? Is that possible?
Possibly to push it.
Yes.
I could see if we really want to, if that's something that you want to look at, is to see if I could, said that we want to get this done by a certain timeline and see what they say. Sure.
I think you should consider that as an option.
Okay.
But does that affect the integrity of the project by having that many hands in that close of a space?
Well, I would have to make sure they're all subs. The issue that I would feel like that it would do is that if we were to push and ask them to put extra labor to set a deadline that I didn't state in the bid, we said that you had 120 days to complete the project, not that you had to get it done by October 1st. So if we were to do that, inevitably, what is the saying is, cheap, quick, or, cheap, quick, or good. So I'm going to tell you, if we put a 60-day deadline on this, it's not going to be any cheaper. They're going to come back with us for some kind of a change order, which I could come to the table and talk about. And once again, there are jobs committed for these contractors. We're not the only game in town doing construction. This is something that they're putting on their agenda. If you'd like, I know I could reach out to the second or third and find out, but that just delays the award. And I don't know how that works with purchasing about, setting a deadline that wasn't necessarily in the contract. They said that they would do it in 120 days.
Yes, Mr. Farley?
It's just worth having the maybe sections ask the question, see what feedback you get, but
I can get you information before next Monday.
Then I would defer with your judgment. Let's get the information.
So I would also have concerns if we had too many hands in the pot, that that concern about the integrity of the project. And if it's rushed, because we're saying to them, you have to have by now, I want to make sure that we're getting a quality project that's going to last for years and not, have...
That's the complication with projects like this too, is that the homeowners put money out of their own pockets into these projects. I know tax dollars are everybody's pocket money, but this is a little bit more close to home. So on these projects, they are a little bit more of a pain because everyone is a little bit more involved and there is a lot of community involvement. So a deadline to get it done, the entire project this year makes a tough project harder, but it's not to say it makes it impossible. This is also not my only project, so.
Because right now you're asking us to just go ahead and award this tonight. However, if you're looking at subs, then we wouldn't be able to do that.
No. Substitute, no.
So should we hold off on this until you come back to us in 2 weeks?
The longer we wait.
The real thing is to award the contract, have Chris meet with the contractor and go over the timeline. And maybe things that are going to move faster than some of the assumptions are. Or it's just what the reality of the project is. So does it get done this year? Does it move till next year?
I would move forward as of right now. Let me try to get you some information before Monday, and then if you don't want to vote on it Monday, that's your prerogative to not vote on it Monday, and we can go to another step, and see what else we have here. But just to not would delay us 2 more weeks,
Right.
because, and we're talking about trying to save time.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. And then, entertain a motion?
So,
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you very much, Ms. Ford. All right, if there's nothing else to come before City Development and Planning, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'd like to call the order of government operations. We have 3 items on the agenda. The first being regarding the renaming of City Street to Luigi Lane. So family came forth, and as you will know, that there's another family that came forth and wanted us to include and recognize their family member who was also a large contributor to the success of said establishment. Also had some pretty significant impact on the surrounding community as well. Received emails from people asking us about this, and I just wanted to kind of bring this up for discussion. I received an email today, and I guess I would share my thoughts would be for us to stay the course that we were moving forward on with renaming it. I think that there's other options. Again, if you think about it, it's kind of a good problem to have, right? That we have people who have contributed so much to our community, and we should look for as many opportunities as we possibly can to celebrate them and their achievements and contributions. So my thought would be, working with the family to find a separate and way of kind of to support and celebrate the contributions that the family member had. That's what I was thinking. Ms. Porterfield.
So, as you stated that, we had a public hearing and the family came forward, and then we received emails and also feedback from others, and including Mr. Mudavari and I spoke about. So there were 3 things that were presented, so I'll just put those out there that could be considered. Obviously, the very first one, keeping it Luigi Lane, and then having a sign or some, I don't even know what you call them, similar to the one that they just did with the baseball field down behind the college, where it just kind of outlines the whole history, and obviously within that history, it would be the name of the owner after Mr. Is his last name Luigi or his first name Luigi? First name, so it's a technically, okay. So that was one of the options. The other option was to keep the street name exactly the same, Barrett Village Lane, and to have 2 ceremonial signs under it, one saying, one with each name that's been brought forward. And then the third option was to just call it Luigi's Lane, which then really names it after the restaurant and not the individual. Those were the 3 that suggestions that were given to me.
What I'd like to see, again, I don't think we want to end up taking away from the initial action course that we were taking, because I think that this gentleman deserves the recognition in its entirety. So I would think that another kind of, plaque which we were talking about that was on the Schenectady Community College Field, I believe you're referring to, which was a beautiful thing. I think that, finding a way to celebrate both individuals without taking away from one, I think that's really the best course of action. But I definitely welcome Councilmember thoughts.
I agree with you. I think I've been thinking about this and mulling over actually pretty much the 3 things that you said, Ms. Porterfield, and I do think moving forward with the original course of action is the way to go. And the idea of, in some other way, recognizing, there might be other people as well that might have worked at the restaurant, as long as for a length of time, similar to the other person that whose family came forward. So I agree with Mr. Farley on this.
And I think it's also noteworthy, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to.
Oh,
Probably not appropriate. I just wanted to just point one thing out, because I've been talking with the family. I just wanted to make sure I know that they're not supposed to speak. Is that the original idea, to your point, was it was Luigi the person, not Luigi's the restaurant. I know that we're all clear on that. And even though it predated me from these restaurants, from talking with the community, and even talking with Gary in my office, and I'm sure some of you might remember, the reason of the push with the Luigi's with the apostrophe S possibly not being the best and going to something more educational, like some kind of a plaque, was that according to the people I talked to that grew up in that area, there were multiple restaurants that were next to each other, possibly a Stella's and Luigi's and a third. And if we go down that road of the sign and being for a restaurant when there were many restaurants that probably are very close to people and not the person, I think you're opening yourselves up to just a larger interpretation, whereas we could stick with it is about a person, not a place, and that the signs could be about the place. And I think it's not a terrible idea just because that area is newer. It does not really fit in with the character of the street, even though it's New Schenectady, as we call it, live in Schenectady. But something there to talk about the old Schenectady might be worthwhile to do and set some kind of standard for the rest of the area. I just wanted to make sure that got pointed out, because a couple people came up to me and said, you know, there were multiple restaurants there, even though when I went to Luigi's, there weren't, because I can't date myself, but we're talking about something that started in the 50s. So I just wanted to make sure I pointed that out.
Yeah, so I think to Mr. Wong's point as well, this is about a person, and the contribution is not necessarily a place. I think the place is part of the larger story, and you know, family members have reached out and have even said that, you know, that Miss Marlene Hill has made significant contributions, and they would love to see her honored in her own right. So I would, again, my suggestion would be we move forward as planned and work with the family of Marlene Hill for something that's going to be acceptable for them and to the broader community to celebrate her accomplishments as well.
anyone else?
I'm sorry. No,
Go ahead.
I'm in agreement with that plan. I remember Mother Farrell being one of those restaurants that we used to go to.
One of the Yankees.
Yeah, there was the whole great.
There were several?
Yeah, yeah.
And those owners had almost equal time as Luigi did. Hill came in and ran the one restaurant for a longer period of time.
Ran Luigi's longer than the other two.
Mama Farrow's and Mama Bianchi's and Luigi's were like the three anchors there. They're about the same amount of time.
Oh, okay.
So again, it seems like we have, again, these are good quote-unquote problems to have. I think that we should be looking any way we can to celebrate and uplift the contributions of people that live here. So I think that's what we'll do. Is there any other thoughts on that?
To your point, I think it's a beautiful thing when we can make sure we capture the history throughout our community, which is very, very vast, and identify ways to make sure as the next generation comes about, those items are not forgotten. I don't think there's any need to repeat any of the comments, which I do agree. I just wanted to add that caveat as well.
Yeah, I suggested that we co-name the street to recognize both individual who had made significant contribution to that block, that street. But I mean, if majority of the council would like to move forward, and respect your recommendation to move forward with what we have for the Luigi renaming. But at the same time, I welcome that suggestion to let's honor the other individual also, because both have made significant contribution there based on the information that we have in front of us. So we can move forward with one, and then at the same time pick up the pace and trying to recognize the other individual in a short distance time.
So in terms of moving forward with the other family and talking about what I'm going to call a historic marker, that's going to be mine. I just want to make sure that we do that, as you know, sometimes you know, things get lost in sauce. But then my other question is, generally, who Is that something, a cost we absorb, Mayor, if we're renaming a street? Do we just do the new street sign, that's all on us?
It would, and the responsibility is the cities to do it. If somebody would like to make a donation on that behalf, I of course would not turn that down.
And how about a historic marker, if we did that?
Would be the similar.
Okay. I just wanted to find out how the cost would be covered.
I'll move this.
I'll second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next on the agenda, we are to review the city code chapter 28 and 729 standing committee, President Portico.
Thank you. So our standing committees are committees that meet on a regular basis. Ideal if we would, then we'd have more discussion at the standing committees and the committees would bring it to the council. But that has not necessarily been the case. However, we did recently have a meeting of the standing committee, and there was some discussion on how committee reports were handled. So what I provided for the council is Chapter 28, Sections 27 through 29, about how a standing committee should operate. And so you all have that. And the specific conversation was around Section 28-28, which is the quorum and reports of the committee. And it states that 2 committee members shall constitute a quorum, and reports of committee shall be in writing and shall not be received unless signed by at least 2 members. So I mentioned that to the chair of that particular committee, and there was some discussion as whether or not that was correct. My understanding is I wasn't there, but it was recorded and publicly, so I want to publicly have this discussion that if whoever said that, that being me, based on the code, is not a person that needs to have a seat at the tables, is what was said. So I don't take Well, I guess I do take exception to that, but I just want to be clear that any information that I provide to the council, I'm getting it directly from the code. It's not something I'm making up or applying to one individual or one committee that is not applied to other committees. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone had this in front of them and knew that that is something that's actually in the code. It's not something that I'm asking for as a council president because it's my my purview or my desire, but it's actually in the city code. So, again, that discussion took place publicly and was recorded, so I just want to make sure that it's publicly on record that this is a part of the city code in terms of those things being in writing for the standing committees. That's it. So unless anybody has any questions around that.
Comments on that?
So, Mr. Mayor, saying that the committee chairs can't make oral reports at committee meetings?
Oh, no, I'm saying we need both. No, absolutely they can do that, but we also have to have it submitted in writing for the records according to this. I'm not out saying no oral reports. Because the committee chair did give an oral report, and then that report would be in writing and then turned in. Whatever was reported would be then turned in to the clerk's office. Just going by the code, yes, ma'am.
Well, actually, just for some clarification further then, because I've now asked for a written report to come from the city clerk's office of the minutes. Minutes were taken at the meeting, and that was what I was then, when I received that, I'll go to the other 2 committee members and ask them to, hopefully we'll sign off on the minutes of the meeting. That's what I thought that this was suggesting.
No, the written report should be the oral report that you gave. It should reflect the report that you gave. Now you're just submitting it in writing.
Okay.
The clerk used to, once upon a time when I was on the city council, reduce the minutes, and then for those minutes to be formalized, it took the signature of at least 2 city council members who were in attendance. If 3 members are there, then all 3 would sign the minutes. I don't know, do you still do that, Sam?
We haven't had many meetings.
This was the first time that we've had, since I've been on council, this was the first time I participated in the committee meeting.
Yes.
So,
Well, we're in a committee meeting right now.
well, I mean a subcommittee meeting. One of the
A standing committee.
Not a
standing
subcommittee.
committee.
Parks and
Standing
Recreation
committee.
is a standing committee.
Right.
Right. So, yes.
Is the expectation for the city clerk to be present at all committee meetings, including standing committees?
I know that the deputy clerk was at the last meeting. So again, it's something that we have done. So here we are.
Oh, so the deputy clerk was not supposed to be?
I said,
Oh, okay.
it's not something that we have done. So I just want to make sure that we just, have those minutes in writing. And so I'm not clear why there's a controversy around it, so, but we seem to have been at the meeting, but I wasn't present.
So everyone's pretty clear moving forward on that? Any questions, comments on that? Okay, thank you, Madam President. Okay, go ahead and move forward then. Okay, last item on the agenda is discussion of charter revisions. President Portier.
Thank you. The mayor brought forward about charter revisions based on section C6-8 regarding the operating budget at our last committee meeting, and there was a discussion that was proposed to change it only, that was submitted through the law department on behalf of the mayor, only to look at that. But during the discussion, it was noted that there were other revisions in the charter that maybe needed to happen, and that we should take a comprehensive look at that. So what I provided for you, and I agree with that. So what I provided for you is we talked a little bit about the methods of revising the charter. So starting on, the page number overlaps, so it's going to be hard for you to see, but 1, 2, 3. Like on the back of the third page in, it starts with approaches to charter revisions. Talks about revision by commission charter, revision by initiative and referendum, and direct legislation. So I thought we need to start having the discussion as we're going to be looking at the charter. Not, in my opinion, I don't know if the entire charter certainly needs to be revised, but the parts that we do it in a comprehensive way so that we just move all those things forward at one time. So I'm bringing forward the guidelines that I received from New York State on how this is done. So I'm opening that up for discussion. Oh, yeah, I'm opening that up for discussion.
Any questions or comments on this?
Yeah, question. I'd like to ask council whether we could still move forward with looking at the one piece of charter revision that actually had a time. It definitely had sort of a timing kind of thing, although it wouldn't affect us. It was going to affect the 2026 budget, right? Not the 2025 budget discussions, but it's still that.
You're bumping up against some time periods now.
So I just wanted to get
if you want to have a public hearing, you can do it next week, calling for it. Maybe voting it on the 19th, but I think that's cutting it close. We could look at that, because then it would have to go to the mayor after and then he has to give notice for his public hearing, which has to be 5 days, and then he has to make a decision. If he accepts it, then it's September 5th. I mean, we're getting, I think, September 3rd. I think we're looking at Tuesday the 3rd, so it's getting close, particularly regarding this particular, if the council wishes to put anything on the ballot this fall for, okay.
Based on the last time that you told us that wasn't even a possibility.
Well, it's because what you do is, once again, you're dealing with a local law and putting it on the referendum, and it would still be time periods that we're talking about. And then we'd have to put a commission together, which, and what are the, if it's created by the legislature, then you have to indicate how you wish to have that body, who's going to be the chairman, how many members, how they're appointed, et cetera. So that's, in a process. Whereas under the mayoral part of the municipal home rule law, it already states how many, the members and how it's appointed, and it's mayoral appointments, etc. Whereas if it's created via the legislature commission, it's much more. You have to develop the rules and how many members and how what their terms are, etc., etc. So it's a little bit more involved, especially when we're talking about the time frames involved. So.
But that is, from what I looked at in what we were sent, we could ask the mayor to put together the charter commission if we wanted to look at the whole charter, but it seemed to me that was still, I guess I'm just asking the question, because of the timing aspect of the one particular thing that came to us regarding that November 1, you know, the budget discussion and whether we decide on the budget by November 1 or not. I guess I'm asking, can we still do
Yes,
both
you
of those
could
things? We could
but
move
it's
with the
cutting.
one discussion, which is more time, you know.
You could always do, I mean, if you want to have a discussion about creating a commission, that's still going to be by a local law, but then that has to go before the voters by the 60th day. So in other words, you're to put that together, the composition of such commission, you know, how you're going to do it, providing the method of determining the number of members, you know, whether they're going to be appointed, how they're going to be appointed, etc. Those are things that you as the city council, if you decide to create a commission, you would have to do those parameters. Whereas, you know, under the mayor system, under a mayor of any city, the law spells it out much more precisely. You know, such a commission consists of less than 9 and no more than 15 members, all of whom shall be residents of the city. Original appointments to the commission shall be made by a mayor with a certificate of appointment, and the mayor shall appoint the chairman, the vice chairman, secretary, and that any membership vacancy of such commission is filled by the mayor. So you can see, whereas that's dealing with a mayoral commission on a charter commission, whereas in the city, the composition may also specify, but you would have to really fix the method to determine the number of the members of such commission. So you have more latitude. By having more latitude, it's going to take a little bit more time in how you want to have that structure. Now, you can may adopt, the legislative body, may adopt a local law for the establishment of the commission to draft a new or revised city charter. And you can do that. And in the shorter or the simplified, but it does still, you would still have to deal with the creation of a commission. You could submit to the electors of such city, you know, shall there be a commission to draft a new or revised city charter as a proposed by local law, whatever. So you can put it to the voters, shall we have a charter commission? But that doesn't, okay, yes or no. I mean, it's still, you would still have to at some point deal with the issue of creating such a commission.
Thoughts, questions?
So my point again was just to bring it forward because, you know, it did come and I will say that what was presented to us, I was not in agreement with, but I don't disagree that we do need to do something. I don't see us doing it in time for this election season, frankly. But I don't want the conversation to die either. And if it's going to take a while, as it seems like it is, and would have been, yes, ideal to start this conversation earlier in the year. However, we didn't. And so how do we move forward to make sure that we don't let this just not go forward? And in terms of the budget, I think Mr. Woodbury kind of spoke to that the last time, is that this would not have been in time for this year's budget, period. But that we have to work together and have conversations perhaps with the chair of finance and the mayor and the president ahead of time so that we can make sure that we're having those conversations and having agreements as we move forward. We don't want to happen what we had happen last year. However, I think that it's possible that it doesn't have to happen. We just have to be all open to communicating and making sure that it doesn't, and everyone coming to the table with their concerns, ideas, and, you know, input in the budget. So.
Absolutely. No, I say absolutely.
Thoughts or comments on that? Okay, so we need to take any action on that. So at this point, I'll continue a motion to adjourn of government operations.
So,
Second.
All in favor?
Once it comes down.